If you give extra kisses, you get bigger hugs.
Sorry?
That's what Santa's wife's always saying. Anyway, that's all the advertising you'll ever need.
It better be. How many workers does this product require?
Just me.
What? No payroll?
Well, my needs are simple. A bowl of stew, heavy on the dill, a cold place to sleep.
What would it cost?
Cost? Cost who?
The people who buy the toy.
Well, nothing. We're going to give them away free.
For free?
Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul, and we are
SP Film Viewers. Merry Christmas, everybody! And in the festive spirits, we have got Paul on the cocktails, being true James Bond-esque.
Well, it's not a martini.
No, it's not. I don't really know what it is. It's a Sophie and Paul concoction.
Yeah, it's like a milky-based
Bailey's. Aldi's.
rum, amaretto mix. Yeah, it hasn't got a name, but it's...
It is.
What?
It's SP's. Woo!
SP
Oh, that didn't clink, did it?
Christmas cocktail.
Woo!
There we go.
Sounds like we've got tumblers, not proper glass.
Seems that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're sort of getting more into the festive spirit now, obviously, as Christmas approaches.
Fastly approaching. So when this airs, we have got 2 more days until Christmas Eve.
And this time we haven't got a pre-ramble because...
We're winging it.
In a sense, because when I put the votes down for what we should cover this week, this was going obviously to the Patreons first, but then I also opened it up to Twitter and Instagram. But it turns out at that point there was a tie between both of them. It's like, oh, right, what do we do now? So I guess okay, well, I kind of wanted to see them both anyway, so I guess we're going to be covering both.
But then last minute, we got a new Patreon.
Yeah, as we were watching one of the films. So
we were literally half an hour until the end of the film. And they voted.
That's what swayed the votes, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like in true Patreon spirit, we need to give a very, very good overview of Santa Claus, the movie. However...
We may as well touch upon the Christmas Story, because we were going to do that anyway, but I mean, this is going to be... I feel like this is going to be very brief, because I don't have a great deal to say about it, to be fair.
I'm kind of glad that we're merging the two, because I feel like if it was just a Christmas Story, it would be really brief.
And you wouldn't be happy, because you'd be like, oh, I got another rubbish one again.
Yeah, and I feel like, to be fair, last week's wasn't great for me. Just going to bypass that. Then obviously we had Spirited, which was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
National Lampoons is a bit, for me, it's like a bit of a love-hate kind of Marmite situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, Santa Claus the movie gave me everything I needed. The Christmas Story, not so much, and I think I would have been left a bit deflated to say this is the last Christmas one that we've got.
Yeah, I wanted to look at Christmas Story, because it's like, it seems like it's one of those, like, really big ones. But I think you had to have seen it when you were younger, and it seems more popular in the States for some reason.
Well, first of all, a BB gun. Are we going into this?
Yeah. We're going straight into this now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Touch very, very briefly, going to cover that, what we've got to say about it.
Just thought I'd check before you tell me off.
No, it's okay.
So, a BB gun for Christmas. First of all, typical American thing. Sorry, any American listeners. It's a thing where guns, sadly, in that country, are still allowed, and it mind boggles me every day.
Yeah, but it's not, obviously it's not a proper gun.
But it's encouraging that behaviour, isn't it? It's like one of those things.
Get my rifle.
Yeah. And then, obviously, when he's older, then it could lead to a proper gun. And I think that's where I'm at with my mindset with it.
I get you, yeah.
Also, it's one of those things where it's that elusive toy at Christmas, and everybody's had it, where everybody wants this elusive toy, and that they don't care what other toy is out there, what any other toy Santa or his mum and dad or his family give him, if he doesn't get that BB gun, that's it. It's like the rest of the toys are shit. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's the be-all, end-all, really. I think that's what the film is trying to go for in terms of, like, the struggles of, like, being a kid at Christmas, and you're like, I really want this video game, I really want that toy, and it's like, no,
But
parents like, no, it's too expensive, and you're just like, oh.
But it's not great mindset, is it, either? There's that kind of, like, I want, so I get.
Yeah.
But I do know there's one, like, when I was little, I think a Furby was definitely one of my kind of, it was all the rage back then.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure I got a Furby for Christmas. And I was absolutely obsessed with this Furby. Or Polly Pockets was another one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've had the experience of you wanted a toy and you didn't get it for Christmas. The version I know of is my sister got like this electronic kind of dog.
Oh, you mean like you mean like the robot dinosaur type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you had a pet.
Yeah.
And it had like Sarah's had like a little dog bone that you fed it.
Yeah, to be honest, I think I did have something like a dog one. Like we're not probably like the official whatever brand it was called at that point, but something of a similar kind of.
Yeah.
You know, you get knockoffs kind of thing, but
not the dinosaur.
No.
Which obviously we know by now Paul would have absolutely loved that. Still, I would have probably bought you that if you were my child. I wouldn't have bought you a BB gun.
No, but I never asked for a BB gun.
No, but
never really would have thought that. Oh, yeah, something I want to have.
Exactly, and I feel like this is a bit lackluster, really, within the film. Weirdly, I don't know why. Also, I know about that leg.
Yeah, that is one of the things I know about the film. There's this lady leg lamp is
awful.
Yeah, as the mother of the kid, what's he called, Ralph, and the father's like, oh, I won this in a contest or something, and it's like, yeah, let's put it up in our house by the window for all the street to see. And I think that also, like, just going off here with that joke, like, it was the funniest thing ever. Like, everybody in the street's like, oh, look at this thing, and that's like bordering on cringe.
Yeah, it is. And I think my problem with it is, first of all, if you were my husband and you got that leg lamp, I'd have gone, why the hell are you putting it in front of the window? Windows already provide lighting. You're blocking the light by putting something,
this big, humongous thing there,
a lamp there that's then having to be turned on. I'd be like, no, it should be in a corner somewhere where it's dark and no one can see it. I would, literally, if I was her, that's how savvy I would have been. I'd have been like, no, darling, can't be in the window. Yeah.
If you're savvy enough to accidentally break it.
Yeah. But I'd have rather just lived with it in a corner.
A talking point, I suppose, if people came round, I suppose. But then the other thing that I knew about was the famous sticking your tongue to a lamppost or the flagpole in this case.
A flagpole?
Yeah, the American flag. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's the iconic thing from it. And that's all I knew, those two elements going into it. But I knew like nothing about, like, didn't even know like what the story was about really at all.
It's just a bit lackluster, really. It feels like he's cheeky and he kind of has that attitude, but he's also geeky at the same time. But he seems to always get into trouble. And it's just one of those 1940s kind of...
Oh, it's set in the 1940s, but it's made in the 80s.
Yeah, but it's got that vibe of, the dad comes in and the mum's trying to look after him like you were in a fight, and she's like, oh, no, he had a little fight, but we're okay, and, the dad's like an inferior character.
Mm.
And, I don't know, just for what it was, I didn't get that Christmas feel from it.
No, I didn't really either. It other than the showing the commercialism again, being to go to Santa's grotto and ask for...
Oh, God, that was awful. That was so creepy. Like, Santa, first of all, you have to climb up what looks like Mount Everest to get to him. And then they sling you down a slide. You chuck him on your lap. And he's like, what do you want? Tell me, quickly. Yeah. And then, right, okay, you've told me what you want. On your way down the slide. Sounds horrific. But I used to hate being on Santa's lap. I'd queue up. Because you know me, I absolutely love Christmas. But the thought of sitting somebody, when you're little, on a weird stranger's man's lap, just seems a bit bizarre, really.
Yeah, it is bizarre, and the fact that, I mean, it kind of encapsulated the old, like, Ralphie's kid brother. It'd been like the whiny meh, meh, and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, that's what kids are like.
That would be me.
And especially, like, when they're in the queue and everything, and just like, yeah, this is getting a bit irritating. So I certainly didn't find anything really particularly likable about any of the characters, to be honest. The kid, I mean, what do you think of the like monologue, narrating monologue, like, as he is an older
I
guy.
thought it was going to come to him being older and still having a BB gun or something. I felt like I was going to see his older self eventually, but I didn't. So I didn't truly understand the meaning behind it.
It said on the opening credits something about based on a book, but I don't know if it's like a memoirs type of thing of that. But still, this is like a film adaptation of that, and it's But I don't know. It seemed so strange because he's kind of like using these eloquent words and such.
But he was only little.
As an adult, reciting his back as an adult, but as a kid, it's kind of like, right, okay. I know, and so you've kind of grown up and stuff, but he's still talking like this was like the greatest thing in the world, and this, oh no, my world's going to end because everyone's conspiring against you have your eye out type of thing.
Yeah. But he does in the end nearly have his eye out, so it's like they were all right. Also, his little flashbacks, like his little flashes to what...
Yeah, his fantasy type things. And
they were weird. They kind of verging on me a bit of cringe. You know, I already looked at the front cover and I knew. And I know you tell me sometimes, don't judge a book by its cover, Sophie, or a movie by its cover. But there's certain ones where it looked cheesy and it looked like that comedy that I wasn't going to like. Yeah,
you know what it kind of reminded me of in a certain way? The way that kind of things like flitted as well. It's like, this is supposed to be like a bit, and then it goes to the next bit. Gregory's Girl, in a sense, kind of like a cutaway from a certain scene, like with two characters, and then it's kind of like, on to the next thing, like wearing a funny costume or something, and then it's right on to the next joke or whatever.
And they used to do like Bugs Bunny rabbit holes to like zoom in and out of things to like change to different scenes, kind
of like transitions, like the fade to black, but in the circular thing. Yeah, that's all, folks, type of thing.
Yeah.
But I also, the reason I wanted to check this out as well, because it was the same director of Black Christmas, which we covered last week. So it's like, well, that was the 70s. Now, how was he gone from the 80s into like a completely contrasting sense of like dark Christmas film to a more, in quotation marks, kid-friendly family film? And I feel like there's some sort of elements with especially like when the mother finds out, like, Ralph said the F word.
Yeah.
And she rings up Schwartz. And she's like, guess where I heard the name for you list? Like, thing. But then there's like some kind of like what sounds like screaming on the phone. It's almost like a flashback to Black Christmas with a weird screamy sounds coming from the other end.
Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from. I know obviously your preference is Black Christmas out of the two.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you'll think he's gone downhill a little bit.
Yeah, I don't really think there's much, for me personally, I must rewatch that again.
No.
At any point, there's nothing here to grab me, pull me back into, like, I've kind of seen it now, but the story is kind of a bit meh, really.
Yeah, and it doesn't give you a moral behind it, and I know Black Christmas didn't either, so maybe that's why, because you've got the director, unless you want to be killed at Christmas. But I feel like it was more greed, and I feel like it was more I'm going to get kind of thing, and that's not really what Christmas is meant to be about. It's about the giving side of things. No.
And also the continued consumerism of, like Ralphie's doing this like secret coding thing for Orphan Annie listening on the radio. Obviously, that was like a pastime for in the 40s or whatever. And he's like, right, get these, what were they? I don't know, collector's stickers or something to get like a secret encoding pen or something. And it turns out the code was just like, drink your Ovaltine or something. It's like, oh,
like an advert.
Yeah. So it's like just pushing for the product to get like, oh, that was totally not worth the effort to collect these coupons or whatever.
Just show you a simpler life, I guess, of how, listening to the radio, getting coupons and stuff like that, and whereas everything is like constantly available to anybody at any point now, we're so impatient and don't wait.
Yeah. Imagine that, like snail mail to get something in the post, checking the mailbox.
Well, it's kind of snail mail at the moment with Royal Mail, but
yeah, to be fair,
being all the strikes and everything.
I mean, so like the ending of it was a bit like, okay.
I was glad it ended.
There was a bit that you said, you were like, there we go, with like a cringy aspect with the neighbours' dogs coming in to wreck the kitchen and the turkey.
I think I just blanked off. I was like,
So then they go to a Chinese restaurant and there's like a hint of casual racism. I'm like, oh my god.
It was awful. It really was.
When
And
the
I'm
guys
like,
are
how is
singing.
it so acceptable for like that back then? Like nowadays we'd be like, no, that's not funny. It went downhill quite quickly.
But what, from the get-go? Because it didn't draw me in at the beginning, to be fair, or I didn't seem to get it. Like, oh,
I think
this is...
actually you were like, we only had half an hour left and you weren't really bothered seeing the ending, and I was like, well, we might as well watch the ending now. We're this way.
Halfway, yeah. Well, past the point of no return, I'm almost like, you just might as well get to the end, and it's like, what's the climax? And like, oh, is that it? Kind of thing. And it's like, okay, well, like say, well, dust it off my hands now. I don't need to ever see it ever again. Pretty much. So.
I agree. I can't believe I'm saying this, in the spirit of Christmas, and because I love you, I will actually say, out of these two films, Black Christmas and The Christmas Story, very original names, you know, that actually the Black Christmas one has a lot more for it. Doesn't mean I will watch it again. Neither one I will. But
a lot more to come back to.
If you prefer that kind of genre, yes, there is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would, before we go to the scoring of this, I just want to make a special shout out to Silver Screensavers, who are under the handle at ScreensaversPod on Twitter, because they commented on the poll that we did on there, and they said, Christmas Story is one of my favourites of all time.
Oh no.
Literally a staple in my household growing up.
I think it's nostalgia.
But I think, there's probably that aspect for a lot of people, I would say.
And if we haven't grown up with it,
and
you see, I completely get it. It's like Christmas with the Cranks for me. You think it's absolutely dog shite, and it is. But I love that dog shite, and that's the problem. It's like it's what you grow up with, I suppose. Yeah, and I think if it reminds you of certain moments within your family and everything like that, I 100% agree. For
it's
us,
alright to like those films, yeah.
However, we haven't grown up with it.
Yeah.
We don't have any connection to it.
Yeah. I think that ship has sailed with this, and it's just like, it's just not for us, I don't think.
I'm glad that somebody's enjoying it out there. That's
I think it's very much popular with an American audience, but as UK.
I'm sorry if we've broke your hearts now, if you're listening back to our podcast and you're like, what the hell are they on about?
Yeah. So, with that being said, what would you score this film?
Oh, God. It was going to be really low until you said that. And I'm like, oh, do I have to be a bit more generous? I'm really sorry. And I'm not being a Scrooge, I promise. I am feeling very Christmassy. But it's going to have to be a 3. This Black Christmas is better. I can't then go against that and give it higher.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't really. It was okay. It was just something to put on the telly. It would be one of those that you could put on the telly and
you
could
walk
be doing
away for 2
anything.
minutes and then come back like, oh yeah, okay, that's
it's one of those
occurring. Yeah, probably something what you would do while you were wrapping your gifts, type of thing. And
but the Grinch like that I can, but that's because I know it like the back of my hand.
Yeah,
but that's one of those I can walk in and out of. But I enjoy that. This would be like I'd be putting it on the telly and not watching it probably. Really.
So like we were saying in the other last episode about how with the Grinch for you'd be like, oh, this bit's coming up. I like that bit, kind of thing. Like say, like why you might give it a higher score, and that's what you enjoy. But for me, I think I'll kind of be sort of neutral-ish, and because I look back at some other Christmas films we covered and stuff, so I'm kind of like comparing it to that, like you've just done with Black Christmas. But I'm gonna put this at 5. That's fair. It's kind of like it wasn't like, oh, this is absolutely, I can't really stand it, but it was just a bit with what it had to offer me, and it didn't grab my attention that much. But I can see why people would enjoy it. I suppose there's some comedy element bits that kind of a bit sort of give a chuckle, but it wasn't like rip roaringly funny. But sadly,
you win some, you lose some. However, Santa Claus the movie. Well, why has this escaped me my entire life?
Yeah, I would have thought that this is probably something you would have really gravitated towards as a younger.
Yeah, I've never seen this film, and I don't know why it's taken me 30 years to have it introduced into my life. I'm devastated that I've missed out on it for 30 years, but I will make up for it.
Yeah, that good?
Yeah, I would watch this every year.
Oh.
It's so magical.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that one, because it starts off with like a starry night sky and everything, like a choral sort of opening and everything, and it all feels like cold and wintry of days gone by, really, like way, way back. I'm pretty sure it was sort of like a European setting type of thing, which I think that's what the legend, the myth of Santa Claus kind of like originates from, that kind of...
Yeah, Santa Claus.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of that, certainly on the earlier parts of the film anyway, that's where it leaned towards, and I kind of like that, even like when we get to him sort of becoming Santa Claus and being in the workshop and everything, and that's the architecture of that kind of fits that kind of well for the European theme of woodwork and stuff.
It's just so beautiful. It really is. So even the snowy scene where he's got 2 reindeers, and it's just this individual man wanting to give gifts to children because they can't have children of their own, and he wants to give just to see a smile on somebody's faces. He's not doing it for anything in return or to look like a good person. It's just generosity in itself.
For the local villagers,
it's what Christmas should be about.
Yeah.
So first of all, we've already got our moral, our reason behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's...
spread joy, because that's all he wants to do.
Yeah, and I think that's what Christmas, the core, should be. I think consumerism and life and everything like that always makes it then, a competition. It has to be bigger, it has to be better, it has to cost you loads, you have to get into debt. And that's not really what Christmas is about. It's just getting somebody something thoughtful. It doesn't have to cost the end of the earth. And I think that's where we're at the moment. Where we have to just gorge on food and feast and...
be gluttons with everything.
Yeah, and I think that's a little bit where I felt this year. I haven't felt that as Christmassy until I watched this film, actually.
Were you feeling Christmassy when the reindeers were in a blizzard and dying and...
I knew they were going to be okay. I knew something was going to happen and it was going to be all right, because he's such a good person that he shouldn't have something like that happen to him when he's trying to just do good.
To freeze to death, to become immortal, basically.
Yeah, become Santa Claus. So what are these little elves called? What are the Wenger boys? I don't know.
Yeah, I think they said Vendicamp?
Vendigum, or...
Yeah, something like that. Which I'm guessing is, again, more of a European...
Just sounds hard work, doesn't it? Elves is so much easier to say. Although I do have one problem. I didn't see one female elf. First of all,
it's like the Smurfs.
But they didn't even have one. At least they have Smurfette, but I know she was made by Gargamel. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
And I feel like, first of all, I know they live forever, but do they just not reproduce then? What is it? And how did they arrive on the Earth? And why aren't there any girls? It's sexist.
Why are
Girls
some
can
older,
make toys.
some older than me? Again,
why are some older than
it's a bit like the
others?
Spirited thing, like why are they all the same age?
Yeah, have they all died young?
Yeah.
Or are they just born spirits in adult bodies? I don't know. It was a bit peculiar. Because obviously when they saw Mrs. Claus, they were quite drawn to her, like, oh, there's a female. And then that's when I started looking and I'm like, there is not a single female elf. Which I think is really wrong. Unless it's a species thing. So, like, fairies are more female.
If anything, I would say, well, I'd not sort of putting gender stereotypes on things, but I would see elves really be more female.
That's because of the Lord of the Rings. But
obviously they're male and female.
There's male and female in that species, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my argument.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from that, I think it's because of the age it's set in. Women weren't as...
Even when the film was made, or do you mean...
I think a bit of both.
80s? Well, no, I don't. It's not to say that they wouldn't do, but I think it was... I don't know, maybe just smaller men.
Could get smaller women.
They could do, but I don't know the logistics behind, sourcing out women to fulfill that role. But
yeah, no, I'm sure they would be there. But it just made it apparent, really more so within these films. You know, like with Spirited, you had all different ethnicities, you had all different sizes.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
And it's watching Spirited compared to watching an old film where everyone's like white, male,
no black elves either, and different times. But there we are. So what's he? I feel like it's, despite it being Santa Claus the movie, it's kind of quite sort of centered around this one elf in particular called Patch, played by Dudley Moore. Yeah. I don't know what you made of his character. overall.
I don't know. I found him hard to kind of figure out. He was more complex, and I think secretly all he wanted to do was impress Santa, basically. I think his heart was generally in the right place.
Yeah.
I just think he got himself into a sticky situation, and really he just wanted to prove himself that he was a good elf and that he could do a good job. I think he is the type of person who runs before he can swim, kind of thing. And he's very energetic and very full of life.
Got lots of ideas, as he keeps saying.
But he needs to just do one idea, practice it and do well at that, and then move on to his next idea. He seems to have a lot of things flying around in the air and not focusing 100% on one of them.
Yeah, and when he comes to making this fandangle machine that he's obviously speed up production and everything like that, but it's not much quality control going on. It's just like, just got to make things faster, just like a modern consumerism factory, just like churning out stuff. And it's like, does it even work type of thing? Does it function as what it's supposed to do? And it's like, no, it doesn't matter. Just keep churning them out. Just the quantity over quality is not the way to go.
100% agree. And I think I kind of, when I looked at this initially, was like, Santa used to make all the toys for the children. He didn't have elves. And I know obviously this is a mass production of basically catering to the whole wide world. Like every child gets a gift. Mm-hmm. However, it's also, I think, sucking the fun out for Santa. All he is a delivery man. Now,
he's just like, he's like the upper management, isn't he? Kind of just sitting back and just going like, what, like, how's everything going? Really kind of just overseeing things, but not really getting his hands dirty, essentially.
And I think that's what he enjoyed doing, and giving gifts to see people with a smile on their face. And I think it's one of those different things. A handmade gift is always more thoughtful than just something you've bought. Or knowing that person, you've listened, you've remembered, and you've got a really good gift to give is a lovely feeling.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's not really...
But I understand, because he's only one person, he can't make everything.
No, he can't. But
even if he had the whole year to...
He could make some, he could help out.
Especially if you think about the fact that if he was to start, like, from January, and it's like, okay, well, how many am I making of such and such a thing? Because the girls and boys will be like, I want this amount of thing, or this new thing that's not even... I don't know, And it's like, oh, crap, I've got like a day to sort all this extra stuff out. I don't know. But
I think they only got one toy.
Oh, yeah, that was the idea.
So you send your letter.
But again, obviously, that's more of the time when that was the thing, whereas nowadays, it's like, I want this and this and this and this, a whole list of...
I feel sorry for my parents. I used to go through the Argos catalogue when I was little.
Oh, I think we all did, maybe.
In the UK, I don't know if Argos is anywhere else in the world.
The Toys R Us magazine or something. You'd circle
everything you want.
Yeah, I want this.
I used to get to a point where I was very organised. If it was in the Argos catalogue, I'd even write the number down for them.
I did that as well.
Did you?
Yeah. Page,
whatever.
Or I'd fold the page over and go, so easy access to what.
So Santa knows.
Yeah, pre-internet days.
Yeah. When life was good and simple.
Just send a link now. Go, I just want this.
God knows what you'd do on your Santa list now. Like how if you'd go through a catalogue, I don't know, if you're little, what you'd do.
Not sure.
But I think it's magical how the letters get sent, like how Santa knows. You just address it to him. You don't even have to put it in front of the fireplace, in the post box, or in what. It can be anywhere. Yeah,
it's almost like if it says Dear Santa or the letter heading, it's almost like as soon as you've finished writing that and putting it in an envelope, it just goes, whoosh, flies off, because there's a point later in the film where it's like January or something. This girl does it, and it just flies off magically to the thing.
I wonder when you start writing your Dear Santa letter. November or December?
It's normally December, isn't it?
Not giving him much chance, really, to make what they want. So what does he do for half of the year?
That's what I'm saying. Just getting the supplies, I don't know.
Making all these toys, but how do they know people want them?
That's what I was just saying before.
I know, I get it now. It's just registered. Yeah. I'm sorry. It's a bit slow. Oh, you're right. Let's talk about the reindeers, then. I
mean, they kind of had some sort of character to them, because they were puppets.
I did have to ask.
Yeah, and most shots, obviously close-ups and stuff, which I think is kind of novel with what they were doing, because it's rather than, like in modern films, it's all like CGI and just like, just copy and paste type of thing, and just like there's nothing about them.
I
and
quite
they just
liked
look rubbish. But I kind of like that. There's a certain charm to having them as puppets, and they kind of felt more like they had, like I say, got something about them. Each individual one, especially when Patch was like pointing them out in the stables, and they kind of like this one's like a greedy one or a sleepy one or whatever.
Or Donna, the scaredy cat one.
The guys, you
Yeah,
could see. Yes, and I did that. Good on them for bringing some personality to the puppets.
Yeah.
And that, yeah.
No, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I think it really, really worked.
Yeah.
Even though they were even more fluffier than a reindeer, I think that's what made them more endearing and still magical about the film.
Yeah.
The toy shop itself, when Santa walked in originally, as well, it was like this perfect wooden toy store. And it was just...
Yeah.
It felt like it encaptured any childhood reality of what you'd think Santa Claus's workshop would look like.
Yeah. Obviously, that would more reflect on, like, 14th century or whatever, when this was sort of set to begin with. But then you might have thought, well, down the line, obviously, as technology's improved and kids' tastes have changed, would the factory also go through that change, be more metallic beams or whatever and stuff?
Not.
But it didn't seem to be the case. But they were still sort of making wooden toys for kids, and I'm thinking, even in the 20th century, would they really be wanting that?
I guess not. It was more plastic, but I think we are reverting back to more woodeny things now.
Such as
More for little children. It's more wooden than plastic.
Right.
But toys, Barbie dolls are not. You've got all of those.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, which are still all plastic, aren't they?
The only aspect I mean, obviously there's a lot of the sleigh flying around and stuff, but it's very obviously green screen stuff, and it's as much as normally like, ugh, that looks terrible. I guess there's again sort of a charm. You kind of forgive it a little bit for what it is.
Yeah, it's endearing and it works, and you appreciate.
Even though you can see that they're clearly just on a track on the floor and everything is.
It's an old film, but it works really well at giving that Christmas spirit. And I think the older films work better for me. Like, we watched The Muppets the other day.
Yeah.
Like, if we're going to compare Spirited to The Muppets, Christmas Carol, sorry, no brainer.
No brainer.
Puppets.
Like puppets, yeah.
They're just going to win. They are. And it's just, the film went so quickly. Whereas Spirited was like 2 hours and a bit. And
in a good way, it went quickly.
Yeah, but it gave you the moral, it didn't drag on. And I think this was the same kind of thing, where it didn't feel like it went on for too long.
You know, I think I checked before, the film was like 1:44.
Really?
It really was. But I kind of knew that the big bad at the end, Beezy, who's like the big corporate toy owner, I know he sort of came, because I've seen like imagery on the internet of like what he's with the cigar and everything.
Yeah.
I didn't like, where does he come into this? Because it's like, after obviously Santa's become Santa, and he starts thinking, and it's like, okay, as the years go on and everything, and he becomes more, like, the kids, what are the kids want in these days and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, it must be leading up to that, but didn't know how well he would really tie into all that. But then it's because Patch kind of messes up with his contraption, and it's like, I'm gonna have to go to the real world and
prove myself, basically, and my worth. Do you know who the guy, the BZ guy or whatever his name is, reminds me of?
Go on.
What were you gonna guess?
No, go on.
It's the guy from A Wonderful Life. You know, the really, really big bad guy that's like
Potter.
With his scar.
Yeah.
That's literally where I kind of in my head.
Oh right.
I
didn't know if you would recognise his voice from, because he's kind of sort of over the top maniacalness of Farquaad from Shrek.
No, he's such a small man in comparison to Shrek.
Yeah, no, I don't mean. I meant more the voice, the way he was talking. No,
it didn't twig.
But I kind of, he was a good part of the film, because again, he was just chewing the scenery a little bit with just how like you're over the top. He was like an evil corporate guy. And you
kind of hated him, but you didn't hate him that much because he was either, if that makes sense.
Really?
Like, you loathed him, but you didn't absolutely despise him. I think that's where it was.
Love to hate the villain, you mean?
Yeah, because you knew the villain was
just
doing
fun
such a good job.
to be there, yeah.
That
was a good aspect of of the film for me at the back end. Yeah, just enjoying whenever he was on because he was like really just over the top.
He really did
Like-
do a brilliant role.
Yeah, he's like, for free.
Yeah.
He's like joking. He's like, oh, how dare you like suggest such a thing?
Mhm. Then we have to go on to Joe,
Yeah, little orphan boy Joe.
homeless orphan boy, and we've got what's her name? The rich girl begins with a C.
I did right. Cornelia.
Cornelius Fudge.
No. Cornelia, not Cornelius. The female version. Now, I don't know if you recall from a film we covered this year, but what this kind of relationship kind of reminded me of? Probably not, to be fair.
This reminds me of Lady and the Tramp a little bit as well, but can you point me in the right direction?
Another like young boy who has like a New York accent, and then the girl is kind of more like prim and proper and posh from a more wealthier background.
That doesn't help. I know what you're saying, and I know when you're going to say it to me, I'll know. Go on.
It's the two kids from We're Back, A Dinosaur Story.
Yeah.
Louis and Cecilia. Again, it's kind of like almost like a basic name and then a really fanciful name as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of.
Wasn't that animated?
That was animated, yeah.
Yeah.
The dinosaur one, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
This one is more heartfelt though. Joe, you just love him to bits, even though he's trying to be hard and act tough, but that's because he's on the street and he has to protect himself.
Yeah.
But really, he's quite vulnerable and insecure. Just wants to have a home, and you kind of want to understand why he doesn't really have that. Like, where are his parents gone? Like, what's happened for him to be homeless and on his own? And then you've got Cornelia.
She hasn't got any parents either.
No, she's got a nanny, and obviously Beezy.
No, it's shock reveal later.
Yeah. Kind of
Yes.
knew that was coming already, to be fair. It didn't surprise me.
Yeah, it was like, oh my god.
No.
Yeah, taken aback. Yeah.
And that's her uncle, sadly. But she's got such a heart of gold. And
Stepdad.
is it stepdad?
Stepfather, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was her uncle.
No.
Oh, I won't listen, was I? But she feeds him food to Joe. She looks after him. He's got a fever. She brings him into the basement. She tries to look after him, and she's got her heart in the right place. And I think that's another moral within the film.
But I think it's very obvious, like, obviously the film that's kind of, again, another thing that kind of touches on the commercialism and stuff, but it has a couple of other instances where it's singling out, like, brands, particularly McDonald's. There's like almost like an advert for it there where people are sat eating the burgers and the chips and Joe's like looking in low.
Yeah.
It's like right in the thing. They must have paid him a pretty penny to have that sponsorship in that. And there's like a Coca-Cola one when I say what reminds when Cornelia gave like him a can of Coke and some food, and it's almost like an advert for Coke. It's like, refreshing.
No, you're right. Yeah. It is, and I didn't realise that they were there. The Coca-Cola one was more apparent than the McDonald's. McDonald's threw me off. I was like, what? Why have we come into the modern world already? I was like, was the McDonald's back then?
It did say the time it was XX, which means, I don't know why I didn't say 20th century, but they were kind of trying to make it old-fashioned into Roman numerics on that, but kind of threw me off thinking, I'm pretty sure X means 10, so 2 X's mean 20.
20, yeah, it's logical, I guess. Yeah. I do feel like they had a bit more of a deeper relationship as well. It was a bit like they were grown up at the same time, these two children.
I feel like they had to be because of not having parents to look after them, so they've got to sort of fend for themselves a little bit.
Yeah, they felt like mini little adults. And you could tell that they kind of liked one another a bit more than...
It's a Lady and the Tramp type of situation, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So Batch... Or Patch, whatever his name is. Patch. Obviously proving himself to Santa. First of all, he steals reindeer food that makes them fly. So if I was Santa, I wouldn't be dead impressed. And then he goes to Santa's competition, who is a bad toy person who puts screws in teddy bears.
And flammable materials on dolls and stuff, yeah.
Especially back then when cigarettes were like all the rage as well.
Yeah.
Stupid. He then decides to make a lollipop.
Yeah, when that kind of threw me off initially.
Why is it not a toy?
Yeah, it's like, of all things to be what, I mean, maybe it's because of the fact that it's like literally like a consumable item. It's like, right, you've used that item, you've got to now, you'll be wanting another one for next year. So it's like here's a little taster. I guess that's why they market it as for free.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like here's just a taster of what you want more of, basically. And it's like you get you hooked on it. So it kind of makes sense now thinking about it in that sense. But initially it was like, why a lollipop?
Yeah, it's not a toy, and it's not really a competition, is it? If it's a lollipop.
Yeah.
And I think he does really well initially with like delivering them all and.
Yeah, he has his own little contraption.
Yeah, and he builds a machine to produce all the lollipops, but then BZ becomes greedy. And that's where we see kind of the moral behind the story is don't be greedy. Simple as.
Mm-hmm. And don't try and make things that make you float because you end up in space if you eat too many.
Don't overdose on them.
Like a Willy Wonka type of scenario. Yeah.
Yeah. 100% is. And I feel like it's got a bit of that old vibe to it. It is like...
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that in a sense.
Yeah.
Willy Wonka, yeah.
It's got a good moral. It just gives you that magical feel, and it's one of those things that, even though it's old, it doesn't feel outdated.
No, and also, I kind of like the fact that there could have been plenty of times when they could have done like a song and dance, but especially like, you know, when there's like the montage and them making the toys in the factory at the beginning. It's just like... It's a montage, but it's just done to like instrumental music, like the score basically of that's what's going on, and it's kind of just like, oh, this is nice. Yeah, it's kind of just like just seeing them working away and not having to do like a whole big show about it. Really, it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, good job there. You have to be doing no need for songs. Yeah,
yeah, and I think it just felt like for me this feels like the film that I used to really love when I was little. And still feel like that's like my magical Christmas moment movie, is the Santa Claus movie with Tim Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when that scene when they go into the North Pole and he becomes Santa.
Yeah.
And looking at that North Pole, the way it's been designed and everything like that, that's...
In the Tim Allen one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, gives me the same feels as this one did. And it brings me back to when I would have been little, if I'd have seen that as a little girl. My eyes would have been like, and I just think it would have been amazing to have seen it when I was younger as well, because I know I would have loved it.
Yeah. In comparison then to this one, to the Tim Allen's North Pole Workshop, would you say is better?
Just the workshop.
Well, just, I guess the whole sort of, I mean, it's hard to compare in that sense, but, you know, I guess, yeah, how things are at the North Pole in comparison, because you made it sound like, obviously, when you were younger, you were like, wow.
I wanted to go to the North Pole so badly. There was one elf called Judy, and I wanted to be Judy. At least there were girl elves in this one, there were.
Yeah, more modern times.
Yeah. It was traditional, it was all your reds, it looked like it was a little bit more modern, it wasn't as wooden, but it still had its Christmas element to it, and you could see polar bears and everything like that.
Okay.
This one, I think, is more traditional within the way it's being portrayed.
And I kind of like what that has as an aspect of a design aesthetic.
I think it's just makes you feel like when you look at that, like even now as a little child, I would still think of that Christmas scene where he's going in the toy shop as amazing. Even though they're not the newest toys that they're making, it still just feels like Santa in his workshop. And that's the magical bit about Christmas, isn't it? But I feel like this movie, compared to the Tim Allen Santa Claus film, has a lot more morals and meanings behind it. And it just gives you that Christmas feel.
Yeah, and even Santa himself, he feels like he really portrays Santa in the best possible way,
It really
He
does.
really fits the part.
Even though, like, I love it because he's putting on his Santa suit, and it's obviously initially was green, and then it was like red's more his colour. And he puts it on, and he looks like he's already gone down a chimney. It's like it's white, it's not even white. I
think that's kind of like the fur trim would be like a bit of grey and stuff, because it wouldn't just be pure white on the from a reindeer skin or whatever it was used to make the fur. But on the trim of his hats and coat and everything. So I can applaud that as well. It's not like, oh, it's all nice and shiny and never gets dirty type of thing. It doesn't feel like
It was
clean and
more
prosthetic.
real and authentic, I think this film was, with everything it had. And even like Santa knew Joe was around, even though he didn't get a letter. He knew Joe was there and went and visited him to make him believe in him.
Yeah. Although, just a question like, or has he not met any other orphan kids before in his whole entire career as being Santa? Because surely there would have been, especially if he's...
There might have been, but they've sent letters. Maybe Joe's the only one who...
How would orphan kids send letters?
You could do it on a scrap piece of newspaper.
What, in blood?
I'm sure you could find a pen or something. I'm sure, if you rummage through bins. Just a way to lower the tone. And I feel like this, coming towards the end...
Yeah.
It's just so, like, magical. It's like trying to catch Patch and Joe, bring them all together back to Santa's workshop, and they all live in Santa's workshop and live happily ever after. I mean, what more do you want? They've neither
of them have got parents anymore, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, and they never had children of Mr. and Mrs. Claus. And it just seems to work quite well that they get to look after some.
Yeah, I suppose,
Even though, really, to be fair, if you did think about it, it does sound like kidnapped children.
Yeah, you could have spin that angle.
You could, but I'm not gonna. There's no legal adoption papers or anything like that, but I don't really think anyone's going to be missing them.
Well, the nanny might be like, well, where's she gone?
Yeah.
I think, obviously, at the end of the film, the BZ's kind of like, he's almost going to be taken into custody. I jokingly thought it was going to be like a bit like Shawshank, where he's like trapped in his office and like pulls a gun out the drawer and just blows his head off. But instead, he's like, oh, I'll just eat all the candy canes that have got the extra juice in them, and then I'll just fly away. And it's like,
be a cowardly custard.
Yes. And so, like, eventually, at the end, you just see him go all the way into space. It's like, have you not dead yet?
Yeah.
You are frozen.
You're not an astronaut, you don't have oxygen now, you should be dead. But it is a children's film in the end, isn't it? So you don't want to be that.
Yeah, I know, but you could just leave that bit out, I guess, and just leave that to...
It's the comical aspect of it, isn't it? And knowing that he's still floating and can't come back down.
So there's a funny bit of that, yeah. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
I think the only other part would be, for me, when Santa kind of feels a bit like BZ's going to take over and he feels like...
Just give up.
Yeah. And it shows that actually he's still only human. He's doing a job and trying to make people happy, and commercialism is coming in and kind of sucking it out of him. And it shows that you could have the most amazing job in the world and still have your bad days.
Mm-hmm.
And that Santa Claus even has bad days of being on the job.
And there's a point when he was hearing like a poem written about him, and it's like a belly that wobbles like jelly, and he's like, oh, well, I better do something about this and have like go on a diet.
Yeah. Feeling insecure.
Yeah.
So I think just certain things like that, it does really feel like it's just altogether a magical film. The other thing I did think was quite funny is, but it didn't grate on me, and I thought it would, when they were trying to set the sleigh going, but she just had to say, yo. I did think, oh, is that a bit too modern? But I kind of liked it, actually.
Oh, okay.
But I feel like I'm just being really, really hypocritical, because it's like, normally that would annoy me, but this film, I can't really say a bad word about it.
The only thing that maybe did kind of... I mean, it was few and far between, though, was when Patch was kind of like doing like these elf puns, like elf help or whatever, and...
Yeah.
There was elf, I don't know. Yeah, someone put shoehorning elf into a line of some description.
Elf-tastic.
Yes, pretty much. You may as well have done like some kind of catchphrase. But yeah, I mean, he didn't. It seemed like more at the back end, it was really more about him than it was Santa, which kind of did like, okay, well, despite the film's called Santa Claus the movie, not Patch the movie.
Elf.
Yeah, we've got a film about Elf, but
yeah, I don't think you can get any other better film than Elf on an elf.
So there's that, but he didn't really annoy me too much. But it's just a bit like, okay, I would rather it be more about Santa dealing with the whole commercialism stuff, really, and kind of counteracting that a bit more. But anyway, and I obviously knew that they're going to, when they mentioned about the super duper looper trick or whatever with the reindeer, it's like, it not happened this time. It's like, that's going to come back later. And
I just loved when Donna used to put his like little ears over his eyes.
Yeah,
it's like, oh no! I thought that really made it quite cute and endearing.
Really.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, I love you, Donna. I would just steal you from Santa's North Pole and bring you home. He was my favourite. Did wonder if Rudolph was going to make an appearance.
Yeah, I did think that.
But he didn't, sadly. But I don't know if that's just because they couldn't be bothered making another reindeer with a red nose. I don't know.
I don't know if it was kind of, despite obviously being a fantasy and the fact that it's Santa is real type of thing, if it would look a bit too stupid if they had like a really obvious, like just how they would incorporate a red nose on a reindeer, if they were trying to make it look like realistic.
I think
even though they were puppets.
More when Patch was, they were going to go rescue Patch and Joe, and I felt like, there were two reindeers down, and I thought,
I got a new one now. Yeah,
is Rudolph going to come in here? But he doesn't.
But obviously the whole thing with Rudolph is he's lights the way. It wasn't like a foggy situation or anything like that. So.
True.
And, I mean, they were flying in January, weren't they? So it's like broad daylight as well. Which, again, like people...
How do they not see him unless there's some magic Santa power that he's got? Because obviously he lives forever as well. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Santa Claus 2, Santa Claus movie, if he falls down, then somebody else becomes Santa. Mm-hmm. So it's not like he's just this mythical thing that lives forever. Mm-hmm. So it's different things, isn't there?
Yeah. And, I forgot about the old prophet at the...
I thought that was Santa initially. I was like, who is this?
He's like, you taking over my...
Some Gandalf
you never see him again, though. But he's still like this really long beard that some elves have to hold as he walks along.
Like, cut your hair. Or don't make the elves carry it.
Yeah, because I'm bringing that up because he mentions about that. Like, it's almost like an eternal night until your job is done. That's how you can deliver all the gifts to the children of the world. But it's kind of like a sort of a mystical way of looking about how that works, rather than I've got to like actually beat the clock and go at lightning speed with rockets or something like that. That's how they normally do in these Christmas films, but involving Santa. But
to be fair, he only has to work once a year.
Yeah, with a lot of preparation.
Yeah, but he doesn't do anything. The elves do it all, so it's not really that hard, is it, for him?
I guess not.
So with this one then, because I went first on Christmas Story, and technically I hadn't seen either, so really neither of you should have gone first.
With which one? Christmas Story or this one?
Well, both. But
oh, right, okay.
In the meaning of Christmas, I'm fine going on the first one, but now I'm going to make you score this one firstly.
I think I kind of went ahead and, like I say, like when I was on about like looking back on the scores from previous Christmas films particularly, and what basing on that, like my enjoyment from this one and from those ones, and like, okay, if that's that, then I feel like, did I enjoy it more than that film, or did you enjoy the other one less, type of thing. So based on what I'm talking about and thinking, like, I could see myself coming back to this one. I don't know, maybe not every year, but I guess obviously you may have more of a sway on that, depending on what your score is. But I won't be like, I'm really putting this one on again type this year. But I do think there's kind of some rewatchability enjoyment out of it, because I genuinely did like it. I'm going with 7.5.
Okay.
I think for what it is, and I feel like I probably would be a lot more higher if obviously I'd seen it when I was much younger.
Yeah, growing up
with it, I think, and probably I don't know if that works the same for you, but it's very much like especially at the beginning, it really like encapsulates what the mysticism about what Santa Claus is and how like kind of like his origin story, I suppose.
Yeah.
Really, and I think for the back end when you've got BZ, who's like over the top character, I really like that aspect of it. It's really funny. And I say, like, the kid relationship didn't grate me too, but they weren't really that annoying or anything like that, so that works as well. I think so. The only letdown is Patch, really, is his kind of, it wasn't too grating, but it was just a bit like, I don't really see how you need so much involvement in a film that's supposed to be about Santa Claus, and I guess maybe sort of like the CGI a little bit, but again, you can kind of forgive it for what it is. It's a Christmas film. It's things, and it did make me feel kind of festive. I really like the music and everything that was in it. So, yeah.
So mine is higher than that.
Okay.
And to be fair, I don't think I was going to give a score this year that I would have been thinking of this number in my head. Because obviously we've done quite a few last year, like Love Actually, which was, high scoring.
That was sort of the first year.
I think we had a good first year with Christmas films.
2020 was Love Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I feel like we did The Grinch as well.
Yeah, that was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if I would have one where it was up there.
Mm-hmm.
So the score is a 10. Just because it made me feel Christmassy. And that is the number one thing a Christmas film should do. And if it makes you feel Christmassy, it gives you those feels. I felt like literally 5 years old looking at that workshop. I was like, oh, it's amazing. And I know my inner self, like my inner child, was like screaming to come out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely did feel like the right moral of Christmas. It was telling you, you want to give a gift, not to receive. It's not how much has that person spent on me because I've spent X amount on them. It should be just because you want to make somebody smile. And I don't think it is that anymore.
No.
Really. And I think it made me think Christmas doesn't have to be this complicated. People get into debt for it and it's like, it's just a simple gift. That's all. It doesn't have to be mountains of gifts. So in that sense, it is a worthy 10. I'd watch it every year. Wouldn't be devastated if I didn't watch it every year, but it definitely for this year gave me that feel of Christmas that I hadn't had before. And I think sometimes your traditional films that you watch, like Home Alone, because them like the back of your hand.
Yeah.
This one was lovely because it was new. It was...
Well, I say it was the first time watched, so...
Yeah, and it just felt old school magical Christmas.
Yeah, I think what initially, obviously, I guess I would think from a basic title like that, it would be like, oh, here we go, like, here's another stuff that's just going to be really lackluster and just either really, like, cheesy or something like that. But to be honest, it really didn't come across that way, really, which is kind of, like, refreshing. It was like, okay, this is actually something that's kind of, like, referencing on sort of, I guess, semi-folklore of what he's about, really. And, like I say, getting a magical feeling from the get-go, really. And then, obviously, things take a turn more at the back end to more the modern times, but even so, it was still kind of enjoyable in its own right.
Yeah,
so
it was whimsical. It was just absolutely beautiful with everything it did. It was just full on Christmas, but not
unbearably cheesy or corny or anything like that. And
it's just perfect. It really was just the perfect amount of Christmas. Everything was just spot on, and it made you think of the homeless. It made you think of commercialism. It gave you everything that you think of at Christmas and that you do, and sometimes you don't even think about it. You just fall into the commercialism side of things, and it just pointed you where you shouldn't do and what you should value. And I think that's always like a Christmas moral, and it has one.
And what would you say that would be the Christmas moral to take away from this ultimately at the end, like based on what happens with them? Because obviously they get taken away.
There's a couple of things, I feel. Yeah. Your main one is the gift, I'd say.
Yeah.
You should always want to give a gift to put a smile on somebody's face.
Yeah.
But also then it's, if you're good to others, then good will come to you, I feel.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, just be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Don't be greedy.
Yeah, because like Santa ended up having got 2 children, whereas Beezy's floating up in space.
Funny guy.
I think that wraps up our Christmas special in a nice little bow.
It does, yes. To be honest, I'm kind of glad that we kind of covered this more so than we did Christmas Story, because we'll talk more about it. I feel like there's a lot more to talk about in this one. That we kind of like. It's good to that, where the other one's just like, picking it.
Yeah, and I've just been slagging it off, and that's not in my Christmas spirit this year. Maybe next year in January I might be a bit more bar humbug. We'll see.
So, yeah, we've got our new patron, Danny Jones.
Woo!
From our friend circle out in the real world, I suppose you could say.
Friend!
Yeah.
We do have friends, yes, we do.
Actual people we can see in person and everything.
Yeah. We call him Jonesy, we do love him. But I do have a bit of a quabble that the fact that
Quibble.
he became a Patreon after he watched Black Christmas, that the fact that Sophie had to go through that, then was like, okay, I'll pay for a Patreon. And I bet you it's more your whimsical things about how great the film was that's what he loved about it, not me slagging it off.
He might have enjoyed that as well.
He probably enjoyed
Yeah.
my misery.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jones.
Yeah. So if you'd like to follow him on social media, his Instagram page is Weight Loss Jonesy, Jonesy. He's a big fan of the Warhammer figurines and stuff, so he does a lot of posts.
Yeah,
about
he does.
That. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, and he also posts about his obviously his weight loss journey and stuff like he's been going through. He's doing really well with that. So yeah, any support for that would be appreciated.
100%. He is quite comical as well with his posts, so
Yes, yeah,
I
he
would
does some
follow
very
him.
sorry. Yeah. We'll also give a shout out to the other patrons we've got, who are Mark from 100 Things We Learned from Film and Ben from Film Vloggers. 2 very good movie review podcasts.
Yes, and both of you voted opposite ways just to make our lives harder. Like,
Yeah, thanks for that.
yeah. Which one?
So it was Mark who voted for Santa Claus, the movie.
Okay, I agree with you, Mark.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ben.
And Ben was like, he commented, so what is Christmas Story even about? So it's like, but he did kind of say that you should give the fans the both of them anyway, but he did actually vote officially for Christmas Story. I guess it was like, he wants to know what it's actually about.
I do know that film bloggers have covered Anna and the Apocalypse recently, so I am interested in going and listening to that myself, because I know last year we watched that, and actually secretly I do quite like that. That is a good twist of a Christmas film.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you've got 100 Things About Film.
And they've done Christmas film. They've done Home Alone this year. They've done
Oh my God.
Home Alone 2 a previous year. I know that much.
Home Alone, imagine 100 facts about that.
Yeah.
I feel like they should have smashed that. I expect like 200.
Yeah, if it's ever listen to see what
I will. I'll have to.
Yeah, and we did actually just get another Patreon.
We
today.
did. So my mum, Rita, well, I can't wait. We've actually got a female on board.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I can kind of persuade her, because obviously you guys are all really more linking to Paul.
Yeah.
And they're gonna, like, I can imagine if you'd have done a poll on Black Christmas and then Christmas Story or whatever.
Yeah. 2
they
Bob
would-
Clark films, yeah.
They would have picked the Black Christmas 100% just to torture me.
Yeah.
Every single one of them would have picked it. I know for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Mum might have gone for, even though to be fair, bless her still, she's going to be outvoted.
Not necessarily, but at least you get a casting vote.
At least we just get a
voice.
woman's input.
Yeah.
Like that. So she's not on Instagram. You can't follow her on any social media or anything like that.
No.
She's a bit of a hermit, but she's my mum, and I'm grateful that she's supporting us.
So, if you would also like to join our now growing family,
Yeah,
of
I should get my
patrons.
sister on this. Like, come on, give me a quid. She's going up to your mum and dad as well. Right, come on. My mum's done it now.
you can show your support for our show, and you get a shout out and to vote on once a month on what film we were going to review by going to patreon.com/SP Film Viewers. That's all one word. That would be very much appreciated.
It's only £1 a month, which is equivalent of 25p a week. I know times are hard, and obviously, if you really do need that, we completely understand that as well.
Yeah.
With everything that's going on in the world, it is mental out there. But any generosity that you can afford or anything like that, or even just leaving us a nice comment or review on social media, like that in itself is always appreciated, and Paul will tell you where you can do that.
Isn't that your job, where you tell people about
No,
the
there's the where they listen to us and then they can leave reviews. You do that.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Okay, fair enough. So, yes, you can go and listen to some of our other episodes over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever else you get your podcasts from. And also, you can go and leave reviews, a nice 5-star review, preferably, over on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, and wherever else they do the scoring system.
We only want a 4 or a 5 star. If you're going to say anything mean, just don't bother saying it at all.
Hmm.
That's what my mum
Tell us
raised
where
me.
we're going wrong, maybe. But
Constructive criticism, I will take that.
Yeah. But for anything else, Soph?
So if you want to follow us on social media, if you haven't already, of course, then we do.
What are you doing if you haven't?
I know, what are you doing? We've been around, is it 3 years now?
Yeah, 3 years coming. 3
Bloody
years.
hell. And we're still doing it, eh?
Mhm.
Are we still going to go into next year doing
Yeah,
this?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay. If we have to. So if you want to follow us, we've got a TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, which I always forget because I'm an old person and I don't know how to use it. And you can follow us on under the handle SP_filmviewers. And if you want to give us any Christmas wishes or anything like that, much appreciated as always.
Yep. So I think the next time we speak to you will be a end of the year review of what we've kind of enjoyed watching and all kind of stuff, and hopes for the future, that kind of thing, and going through the sort of the top episodes of the year and things like that, kind of just like a openly unedited type of rambling stuff that we kind
drinking.
As we do, yes,
No,
that should be fun.
It seems really weird
retrospective,
thinking this year's already gone.
Yeah, it is kind of flown by with, obviously we took a month off with, obviously, for the wedding and stuff, but...
Yeah, it just feels weird that we're still married. I know that sounds really bizarre. I feel like we just had a good party and then we're just back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally it. But we do have our wedding photos coming as well. That's something we will be sharing out there because they're absolutely stunning. We've seen a bit of a sample, and we will say who our photographer is when we put them out there because he has done a fantastic job.
In the meantime, thank you once again for listening, and we will speak to you next time.
Merry Christmas, everyone!
Merry Christmas. Bye now.
Bye!
Bye.
Bye!
Bye.